Joining me now is Malalai Joya. She is a former member of the Afghani parliament, the federal government over there, and is now a peace activist and anti-occupation activist. Malalai, thank you very much for joining the program.
Thank you. Thanks for this interview.
No problem. So give us a bit of background on Afghanistan. Traditionally, if I'm correct, it hasn't always been a centralized federal government unless, of course, an occupation. You have the British occupation, the Russian occupation, and then by proxy with the CIA and Pakistan and Israel and Saudi Arabia with the Taliban in the 80s against the Russians. That kind of set the stage for the Taliban's occupation until post 9/11. People seem to think it's just Taliban versus the U.S., but they don't see that they actually were friendly back in the day. What's the history of the country in relation to occupation and what people don't know?
Yes, we have a proudful history that our people, they never accept the occupation. As in the past, British 3 times, they occupied Afghanistan and faced with resistance of brave Afghan people, men and women. And then Russia as a superpower occupied and they failed in our country. And now this 12 years by a fake banner of women's rights, human rights, or so-called war on terror, US and NATO came in Afghanistan and pushed our people from the frying pan into the fire and replaced the barbaric regime of the Taliban with the warlords. And today Afghanistan is like safe haven for the terrorists and also center of the drug in the world, as now more than 90% of the opium produced from Afghanistan. And especially situation is disaster for the women of our country, and it was a very good excuse for US and NATO to occupy Afghanistan, the catastrophic situation of the women. But I'm sure if voluntarily they not leave Afghanistan, will face again with the resistance of Afghan people. Because we are in the heart of the Asia, and when you see the map of Afghanistan, this is the reason that US and NATO and big powers in the past, they have interest to Afghanistan because of the geopolitical location of Afghanistan. The US and NATO also come in our country for their own regional, economic, political interest there, and still they are playing the game of Tom and Jerry with these terrorists, and tens of thousands of innocent civilians have been killed, most of them women and children, under the name of so-called war on terror. And now US and NATO, they publicly says to our people that Taliban is not their enemy, and in the name of national peace reconciliation bring these terrorists also in power. Fortunately, world know that who is Taliban and how much crimes these fascists did. Even recently, Western governments, US government opened an office for these terrorists of the Stone Age in Qatar. And that's why I believe the so-called peace that US is talking nowadays is more dangerous than the current war, make more unite the enemies of Afghan people. And also they say that they leave Afghanistan by mid of 2014. It is also another big lie. From one hand, they are talking about the so-called withdrawal of the troops. From another hand, they talk about US permanent military bases. There are 9 major military bases now they are working and going to make it legalized. And but they are there for long-term for their own strategic interest, and few thousands of the troops withdraw to deceive good people of the US around the world, but their puppet regime remain there, and also their military bases, even indirectly also easy for them to control Afghanistan and continue to their brutalities and fascism against our people.
Talk a bit about your life in Afghanistan and what happened when the United States came in and installed yet another puppet government, even though Taliban was kind of doing their bidding by proxy, given that they did help them out in the 80s underneath the Soviets. What do you make of the covert meddling of the United States government before that installation of the federal government via the Taliban, and now that they have a permanent puppet installation in the federal government, and how you got involved in becoming a member of parliament there?
Yes, when you see my life alone, my life story tell you about the mockery of democracy and mockery of war on terror in Afghanistan. That in the Taliban time, I was activist under burqa, and it was risky and dangerous as I was teacher there. And today world know about Taliban. But after 9/11, because telling the truth exposed the mask of these warlords who are blood and creed of the Taliban. And also against Taliban, I raised my voice against the occupation. And despite wearing burqa and bodyguard not safe, and 7 assassination attempts these terrorists did against me. And last year they attacked my office in Farah province, and 2 of my bodyguard brutally injured. Now I have to change houses, move from place to place as underground activist in Kabul. And many obstacles, challenges, risk like we face, not only me, there are many other activists in Afghanistan, brave activists that I call them. They are secret hero and heroine of Afghanistan, organizing demonstrations, and these brave protesters like Solidarity Party of Afghanistan, running by youths, and they are so brave. And since 2004, I follow their activism, that how more and more people join in their demonstrations against the massacre of these occupation forces, against the dictator regime of Iran or Pakistan, against these brutalities of these Islamic fundamentalist warlords and Taliban who are in power. Hundreds and thousands of people joined their demonstration and left them. And I'm really worried about their security. 5 times at least I remember their members went even to the jail. These youths, most of them are students of the university. And also we have many progressive people, some few democratic parties. We have their well-educated people inside Afghanistan, and still some of them living outside of Afghanistan. And there are no honorable job for them, and they are under pressure and facing different kind of challenges, risk, and these terrorists even eliminated them and eliminate them more. And their alternative for the bright future of Afghanistan should be support. But those who are in power, this bunch of extremist fundamentalist warlords, and also Taliban, puppet of Russia, this bunch of killer who in the name of socialism committed crimes, and like the warlords and Taliban in the name of Islam, and now again these warlords who have support of the U.S. government in the name of democracy, they commit crimes. Join their hands together, and day by day getting economically and politically powerful to eliminate these brave activists in Afghanistan. Only you know about me because I'm famous, and the reason that they want to eliminate me because I'm nationally and internationally famous, and they know this, the important work that we are doing together there. Not only me, but other activists. They are active in raising political awareness of the people, try to lead them to the right direction, to be more organized and united, especially to bring positive changes in the life of the woman, to let them know their own identity, educationally encourage them and support them there. And these are the reasons they want to eliminate me, and I have to be underground there.
And you mentioned Islamic fundamentalism, which in the Taliban's case was fueled by the CIA giving them the Saudi version, the Wahhabist version of Islam, which a lot of people don't consider to be representative of the actual religion, but it served the U.S.'s interests in extremizing the Taliban. How did the U.S. impact treatment of women through their extremizing of the Taliban during the 80s?
Sorry, how
because the U.S. tries to go to these wars under the banner of women's rights. How is it the opposite when they made the Taliban extremists by giving them these extremist translations of the Quran during the 80s?
Yeah, you know, these extremist warlords, also Taliban, this Islam, this religious is a good tool in the hands of them. Like the other extremists in different other countries, that they mix religious with the politics and use it against people, especially women. In Afghanistan, these fundamentalists, also Taliban, warlord Taliban, both, they have their own interpretation about Islam. And they even in Constitution of Afghanistan, they are, for example, they say that women 18 years old is legal age for them that to be married. But each these fundamentalists, some of them are Shia, some of them are Sunni, they say that some says 16 years old, some says 15 years old is legal age, and they are going to even change this law. And we have constitutional in Afghanistan that like a beautiful things in the shelf of puppet mafia regime of Hamid Karzai. If it was benefit for them, they use it. Otherwise, they will look at like a waste paper. Or, for example, the beginning of the parliament, they made amnesty law criminal, that they themselves forgive each other. And it is so ridiculous, despite national international condemnation. Again, they this law has been easily passed, and they put it in practice, as now these wanted criminal again running for this so-called free presidential election with bloody hands, and they were in power this 12 years. So situation getting more disaster, especially for the woman, as now US and NATO invite Taliban, these terrorists, and also Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, this fascist man who his name was in the blacklist by US government, to join this puppet mafia regime. And if the situation getting more disaster, it is not because of withdrawal of this few thousands of the troops that they withdraw from Afghanistan to deceive good people of the US and around the world. The situation getting disaster because bringing more terrorists in power and push more Afghanistan toward dark ages. And that situation do not be better, and otherwise they do not have excuse for being there, interfere in our internal issues, or have their military bases there, as going to make it legalized. In a country which has foreign military bases, they never can expect that they have freedom. And the only demand of Afghan people is justice for blind bombardment of these occupation forces, and also for the suicide attacks of these terrorist Taliban and their brother increased warlords that with mask of democracy continue to their fascism, rape the woman, put acids on the face of the woman, even seem like Taliban beat women with lashes, threw acids on face of women, and also poison the girls' schools, different kind of violences, cut the nose and ears of the woman, inhuman violences against women increasing more and more.
We talked about how the United States kind of gave harbor to the Taliban in the 80s to go against the Russians. How do they do it nowadays with the war? They say they're against the Taliban, but that's just what the propaganda machine and the mainstream media says. How do, in reality, they actually harbor and help not only the Taliban, but the other warlords that you mentioned?
Sorry, just I want to be to the point. Maybe sure. Before I was not to the point, isn't it?
I'm wondering how present day.
How Taliban created, you mean how warlord?
Oh no, how the U.S. is allowing the Taliban to thrive in Afghanistan and presently. This 12 years, in fact, Taliban indirectly, they had support of the U.S. And the U.S. government and NATO, they played the game of Tom and Jerry with these terrorists. As in the past, they created Taliban in the religious school of Pakistan through ISI of Pakistan, financial support of Saudi Arabia and these other countries. And Taliban there has been created, empowered, nourished, and come in power in Afghanistan, continue to their fascism. Then 9/11 happened, that world know today about Taliban. But after 9/11, they replaced Taliban with fundamentalist warlords. But during this 12 years, through ISI of Pakistan, again they supported Taliban. As today, they are doing suicide bombs and took the life of these innocent Afghan, most of them women and children. And for example, some terrorist Taliban, like one commander of Taliban, Mullah Abdul Salam Rakiti, who even raped 3 Chinese in the past, he's in the parliament, and also Mullah Arsala Rahmani, even not elected, appointed by Hamid Karzai in the parliament this 12 years, in the Senate was in power. Mullah Mutawakkil, foreign minister of Taliban, Mullah Abdul Salam Zaif, ambassador of the Taliban time, has good life this 12 years in Kabul, and all expenses the government paid. Or now, financial minister of the Taliban, Mullah Aghajan Motasam, they just released from the Guantanamo jail, and countless other Talib from the Bagram jail, they released
released in the name of national peace reconciliation, invite them to join this regime. Some of them even back over the Taliban and start again their terrorism, their fascism. And this is what we believe, that US and NATO, they are not serious to really make powerless the Taliban, because they invested millions of dollars on them. Seem like they invested millions of dollars on the warlords during the Cold War, created them again by support of ISI and financial support of Saudi Arabia, the CIA. And you can read, and Robert Dreyfus spoke very well to know more about that, how US created these extremist, misogynist terrorists, and still they need to them for their own dirty agendas they have for this occupation, for justification of this criminal war, and through them continue to their fascism against our people.
And a quick final word on the drug aspect, and also resource extraction, as far as why the U.S. Has other gains to gain other than what they say they want, which is democracy and women's rights. Talk about how, since the invasion, Afghanistan is now responsible for 90% of the world's opium production, and as well as all the rich resources of the land that are now, and who they are going to now, if they're not belonging to the people of Afghanistan, who is benefiting from the resource extraction.
Yes, one of the main projects of the CIA was that to change Afghanistan to the center of the drug, and they become succeed in this because of support of these drug warlords. And the Taliban time, they almost destroyed these towers of opium, but now Afghanistan is the center, the capital of the drug in the world. About 4,400% opium, more than 90% produced from Afghanistan, even found its way on the streets of New York and Europe. And there is recent report says that around 2 million Afghans are addicted, most of the women and children. And that's why I believe opium is even more dangerous than Al-Qaeda and terrorism. Every year, billions of dollars they are making money from the opium industry, as after the trade of arms and oil, they are making a lot of money from the opium. And the life of Afghan has no value for them. And for example, the government, this puppet mafia regime, or their farmers, that US says to the poor farmers, stop planting of opium. But the governor, the commander, the chief district, even the minister of the drug is these powerful warlords. And a lot of money they make goes to the pocket of the warlords, also to the US government. As Helmand province, they changed to the center of the drug. There's a kind of competition between British troops and between the American troops. Even report from people I received that they say that to people, we are here to take your security. As much as you want, you can plant opium. And opium bride is another problem. Girls aged below 16 are married off in exchange of opium, when the poor farmer, they are not able to supply opium to these powerful warlords. And many examples like this, they destroy the life of these Afghans. Or rich mines that we have, rich resource, around 3 trillion mineral deposits we have. As the system is corrupt, it do not benefit Afghan, and looting these corrupt people in power, and also US government and NATO. Our copper mine is the second best copper mine in the world. And once even Minister of the Mine, Ibrahim Adel, this corrupt warlord, do dirty deal with Chinese company, receiving $13 million that even Washington Post gave report and exposed him in the past 12 years. And many examples of their corruption, that this taxpayer money also goes to the pocket of these corrupt people who are in power. For example, Minister of the Pilgrimage stole millions of dollars. He, when it became exposed, escaped, went to the England and UK, and there as a VIP welcomed by government of the UK. And also the governor of the central bank, Kabul Bank in Afghanistan, that millions of dollars has been stolen by these looters, these drug lords. And the governor of this bank, Khadir Fitrat, when the corruption exposed, this with millions of dollars escaped and came to the US. And here now has good life and welcomed by US US government. And this list can be prolonged that their corruption, when they expose, they are escaping to the Western countries and acting like Democrats, and here they enjoy their lives. And there's money has been looted by these drug traffickers and these warlords, these drug lords, and they are not honest for Afghan people. And now bring Taliban also in power, in different way they continue to their barbarism. Like their military base there, their puppet regime remained there, then few thousands of troops withdraw, and they tell you that we went out of Afghanistan. It's a big lie. And also that nowadays they are handing over responsibility to Afghan National Army and police. It's also another trick that use these Afghan as cannon fooders to decrease the number of their own soldier casualties. While in the past we had national unity, we had like Afghan National Army and police was volunteer, but today people call it dollar army. And also the head of Afghan National Army and police are powerful warriors. They do not let Afghanistan stand on their own feet. And many times these police with the clothes of the these warlords with the clothes of the police, they committed crimes. Even in Kabul, people don't have security by presence of these tens of thousands troops. And it's still by these warlords, drag lords, they play the dirty policy of the British divide and rule. And now they say the solution of Afghanistan is federalism. And we progressive people in Afghanistan around the world, you know that federalism means balkanization of Afghanistan. And we are there to fight against all these, and we need international solidarity. As we said that we wished it was not military invasion, it was invasion of schools, clinic, hospital, that we really need this honest helping hand. But they double our miseries, their presence making much harder our struggle by empowering these terrorists, reactionary terrorists, warlords, Taliban. So it's better they leave Afghanistan now. If today they leave, it's much better than tomorrow. And people, ordinary people, when you talk with them, as we are underground activists, we are close contact with them, they say, what US and NATO do in Afghanistan? If this is democracy, we don't want democracy.
Exactly. And as a final word, I want to talk about your book a little bit and your Indiegogo campaign. How can people support you with that?
We, you know, the war of Afghanistan is not only military war, it is propaganda war too. And still they are deceiving good people around the world, but we need their support. Hope to not be deceived by this propaganda machine. As Patrick Tyler says, in the world is two superpowers. One is the US government, one is the world public opinion. When you know the truth, and you know, first read some book of honest writers about the history of Afghanistan to know these enemies of Afghan people, knows the role of your government, like Dowers Game book, Robert Dreyfus wrote You Should Read, or Kathy Gannon wrote IS for Infidel. This book has been written about the warlord through the Civil War. You can read the book, my book, if you had time, A Woman Among Warlords, also helps you to know about this 3 decades of war on behalf of war generation I wrote, also Bleeding Afghanistan. These different books, that number of the books, and also these websites and articles that honest writers writing. Please read it to know first the history. Then you should put pressure on your regime, join your heads with anti-war movements here, anti-war organization, to put more pressure on your regime. Stop this wrongdoing, this war crime in the name of good American people. Contact some honest politician if you have in the parliament or in the government. To them put pressure on the warmongers who are waging the war in Syria and Libya and Palestine, Afghanistan, Pakistan, different countries. And this way we can do campaigns for the good cause to be more united, more organized, together fight against them. And I'm sure one day we will win if we do not sit silent and if we fight against them. When we see that imperialism, fundamentalism join their hands together, try to lead the wars toward barbarism, we should fight against it. Even if it happens in Iran, in Iraq, in Palestine, in Syria, in Libya, in Yemen, in Somalia, or any other country. Especially my message to good people around the world is that empower my people educationally. I strongly believe in education as it is a key against occupation toward emancipation.
Definitely, and I would strongly encourage any viewers to check out the Indiegogo. It's a movie based on the book A Woman Among Warlords. I would like to point out a button that Daniel Ellsberg gave Malalai. It's U.S. out of Afghanistan now, and we met the other day at the Palestine Right to Return Activist Center, and we were both wearing our kufiya, and she made a great statement saying that she considers herself a Palestinian of Afghanistan, and I hope we can all be freedom fighters wherever we are in the world. Malalai Joya, author of A Woman Among Warlords, thank you very, very much for joining the program.